everyone. I'm Saleha, and this is Chai, Chat, and Community. This afternoon, I have a very, very, very special guest at a very special time who I've been following for years after listening to him on Australian Story on ABC. And a few years ago, I must have been one of the few Desis who would listen to him every morning on breakfast show while driving to work. So get comfortable, get your chai and samosa. Perfect weather for it, isn't it, Sami? Um, and get ready to meet my special guest who I have been fangirling over years. I think that's kind of inappropriate, but anyway, I'll go with it. But before I introduce you to my guest, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet this afternoon. And I would like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And Ramzan Kareem to all my friends who are fasting. I am looking for an iftar invite. Meet my guest, Sami Shah. Hello. I'm not going to
Thank
smile.
you so
I've told
much.
myself I won't.
No, please. That'd be weird if you didn't. Thank you so much, Saleh. I really appreciate being on the show.
And thank you so much for coming. Thank you. I have posted the picture of you and me. And as I told you, I've got 54, only 54 comments. So I am very, very chuffed. So anyway, I know a lot about you because, like I said, I've been following you. But
Mm.
how about telling our listeners about you and why you moved from Pakistan and your journey?
Um, I mean, how do I sum it up really quickly? I'm from Karachi. I started my life in Karachi. I was in Karachi for most of my life. I used to work there as a journalist for a while for Dawn News and then Express Tribune. And then I ended up moving to Australia in 2012. An immigrant like so many of us. And I got a weird visa. It was a regional state sponsored visa. So I ended up living in a country town in Western Australia. If anyone does not know, Western Australia is like the Punjab of Australia, and a country town in Western Australia is very much like a Punjabi gaon in Australia. So I was there for like 4 years, and I did like at 2 hours from Perth. I used to do comedy in Perth. I drive down 2 hours drive, do comedy, then drive all the way back. And then I moved to Melbourne a few years ago. I've been doing comedy ever since. Basically, I mean, I started in Pakistan. It was myself and Saad Haroon, and we were the only two English stand-up comedians in the country. And yeah, just basically kind of been doing this for a very long time. And every now and then a Desi will come into my audience, and it's always fun catching up with them when they do.
Well, we are going to your show on the 21st. A bunch of
Ah, thank
us,
you very
thanks
much.
to Noreen.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
a bunch of us. And Noreen has said you will have coffee after the show with us. So I'm
Definitely,
guessing all of us are
definitely.
very excited. So, how did ABC discover you?
I was banging on the doors for a very long time. So like when when I moved to Australia, I knew that I wanted to work in journalism still and keep working in news. And I looked at TV news in Australia, and I looked at all the news in Australia, and the ABC was the only one I respected. I mean, I know there are people who watch Sky News, but I guess there's brain damaged people in any community. I know there's people who and as someone who respects journalism and respects ethics and respects intelligence, I couldn't work for anything other than the ABC. So I applied to them when I was in Perth. I used to live in WA. I basically just emailed all the producers. I just realized that if you do last name dot first name at abc.net.au, you can email any producer at the ABC.
Okay.
I just emailed all these producers I found on LinkedIn, and I said, "Can I buy you a cup of coffee and pick your brains?" And a lot of them said yes. Australians are very generous with their time, always, I found. So I got to meet a lot of people who then basically I said, I'm from Pakistan. I've done journalism for many years. I used to work at Dawn News. I've got training. I'd love to work for you. So I ended up working as a social media producer for ABC News for a little while. And then I guess they just, one day they needed a fill in host because Raf Epstein, who does the Drive radio
I love him.
program, was away.
Yes.
Raf is great. He's a very good friend of mine. And he wasn't well. And they're like, you've done radio before. Would you like to try it? And I was like, yeah, sure. and I did it and I enjoyed it. So they let me keep doing it for a while there. So I was there for like 2 years. I did the breakfast radio show, but it was too early in the morning for me to continue.
Like I said, few people would have watched it. I used to drive to work, so fantastic way of, and I think having a brown person host a morning show was fantastic.
No, I was the only non-white presenter in the whole country on all of the radio in Australia, on all of ABC's radio in Australia.
Yes,
I know SBS radio has many, of course, and stuff, but ABC radio didn't back then. And I don't know. I was the first immigrant to be doing it. Waleed Ali's done it a few times, but on Radio National.
yeah.
But it was a big deal. And I used to get lovely messages like that, from other desis, from people from Afghanistan, from people from Iraq and Lebanon, from people from even like Irish and Scottish people who'd be like, I didn't know someone with an accent could get a job on in Australian media. So I think it meant a lot to a lot of people. It meant a lot to me that it meant so much
Yeah.
to a lot of people as well.
I think you've given a lot of us hope.
I
So,
ho- I mean, I don't know about that. Like, um, in the end, I was just trying to make my rent and doing what I like doing. And so I think if other people find that helpful, then that's great. But the idea, I think, is basically if you want to do something, don't let someone else tell you not to do it. Just do it. It's up to you.
correct. So I'm going to ask you talking ABC. So I read in
Hmm.
Sydney Morning Herald that after you joined ABC, you had to go for voice coaching.
Hmm.
And is that the normal thing? And I also know um, people have said they don't understand your accent, which I find really offensive, to be honest, very, very offensive. And would you think it's racism, or are we just overreacting? What is it?
Look, I mean, the voice coaching. So it started off all presenters have to do a little bit of voice coaching, and for me,
Okay.
it was I would talk too fast. I still have that problem. So they basically wanted me to kind of slow down, which I was fine with. The problem for me started when they tried to get me to not have a Pakistani accent.
How can that
And for me,
happen?
I'm like, and I was like, that's my thing. I was like, dude, this is part of my identity. This is who I am. I
Of
can't
course.
change that. And I don't want to change that. If I pick up an Australian accent naturally over the time, that's one thing. But to force me to give up a major part of my identity is a very strange thing. Um, and then, when I started doing radio, a lot of people would text in and be like, "Oh, I don't understand what he's saying," and I didn't believe it because I'm a comedian. I perform live to hundreds of people all the time, and they understand me fine. And it's not like my crowds are made of desis. In fact, hardly any desis ever come to my show, which is a separate complaint that I always have about the desi community that we're not very good at supporting each other. But most of my crowd is made up of Westerners, of Australians, of white people. They understand me fine. So I realized very early on that I don't understand his accent is a coded way of being racist. It's a way of saying I don't like the brown person, but without having to say
Posting.
that. And it really bothered me, but also I just kept doing the show and I didn't change my accent. And in the end, they stopped complaining. Which is why I think stuff like that matters to put people with different voices on. Because if Australia is a multicultural country, which it is, then you got to represent that multiculturalism.
Well, except for Stan Grant, I don't see brown faces. So,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
he,
Stan
yeah,
is there on TV. There aren't really many. They always
yeah.
point to like, there'll be one or two. But also, Stan's been there forever. He's been a
Yep.
guy
And he's
working in
Australian.
media.
He's not
Yeah,
like you and me.
and I've known him for years. Like he's worked really hard and had to put up with a lot of bizarre racism as well to get where he is. And I think what it is, it's that frustration of like the idea that this is a meritocracy and we want it to be a meritocracy, then hire people based on merit, not based on race. And whenever I would get hired based on merit, people would say, "Oh, you're only here because you're brown," and I'm like, "No,
Of
no, no.
course.
I only here because I'm so good that you can't deny the fact that I'm brown. That you have to pretend like I'm not brown because." People when they're brown it works against them a lot of times when they're black it works against them so we still have those elements that we have to deal with and pretending like we don't doesn't help anyone. I don't think that it's as much of an impediment as it used to be. Things get better day by day, year by year, but yeah, it still affects things sometimes.
Great. I'm going to show a comment. Noreen
Mm-hmm.
has. Hi, Noreen.
Hi, Noreen.
So, yes, representation does matter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, I met you at the VMC dinner. And
Yes.
for people who don't know VMC, it's a Victorian Multicultural Commission, where you were the MC. Do you think that's stereotyping us, or is that normal? I know you have been a master of ceremonies at other places. We talked
Hmm.
about it when I met you, but specifically MC, have you been MCing before for multicultural
No,
Victorian Multicultural Commission?
no, that was my first time for the VMC. I've never done anything for them before. But basically, there's a panel of people. You know, they hire a company that organizes the event for them, and
Yeah,
the and
yeah,
that company, I've done many public events for that company before. So they thought of me for this. And and also I'm affordable. I mean, if I was more expensive, then they would have gone with. It would have been me or Nazim Hussain. Those are the two options basically. But I think I don't know. I find like something like that, like the Victorian Multicultural Commission. I think if they'd had a white guy emceeing it, it would have been disrespectful, because I feel like that is such a celebration of the migrant communities of
yeah.
Australia. I mean, and by white guy, I don't like. I mean, there's Ukrainians there's Europeans in the VMC as well, and that's important. One of them can do it, but to have a foreigner, to have someone who represents multiculturalism just by his own existence, I think is very, very important. I don't think you can just do something like that and have any MC. So yeah, it meant a lot to me to be able to host it, and also it was so much fun to
It
see
is.
like the Chinese dragon dance, followed by the Indian Bollywood dance, followed by the West Nigerian singers, followed by the
The
Papua New Guinea
Aboriginal, yeah, yeah,
dancers, and yeah, all of these things. It was such a cool thing to be a part of, and to be able to go like, yeah, there's many parts of the world where you don't get to see this kind of diversity taking
correct.
place
And
on
I
one
think,
stage.
and Noreen said to me that she's from Canada, and she said they don't have this
Mhm.
in Canada. So I think it's
Yeah,
a really good
absolutely.
thing. VMC, yeah.
It's a very Melbourne thing, I think, as well. That celebration of multiculturalism is so much more prominent in Melbourne, which is why I love Melbourne so much.
Okay, I'm going to read out something Noreen has just sent to you, and here
Hmm.
it is.
My impression is that your comedy is largely based on political situations. I also know you started stand-up comedy in Pakistan. Is politics also the subject of comedy in Pakistan? And did you get backlash there from the conservative elements? Yeah, I mean, yes, I've always been political. My first ever stand-up comedy show ever in Pakistan wasn't political. It was just observational comedy. It was me just doing comedy, but light things. Desis hate comedy that isn't family friendly. Desis love family friendly comedy. Every single Desi I ever meet goes there. What about Russell Peters? And he's great,
Yeah.
but he's not me. He's not me. Um, I basically I used to do comedy and I was working in journalism. And at the time that I was working in journalism, there was a terror attack it's in Karachi is famous, the Karsaz bombing, which is when Benazir Bhutto arrived in
Yep,
Karachi, and
yep.
there's a massive two bomb blasts on her procession. 180 people died or something like that. And I was one
I
of the
remember
journalists
that.
who was there at the
Yes.
time. Um, I was a reporter for Dawn News. I was there at the time, and I had a comedy show the next week in Karachi, and and I was going to cancel the show, and then I was like, I don't want to cancel the show because it sucks. Like, why do the terrorists get to dictate how we live our lives? If we want to laugh, we should be allowed to laugh. And I did the show anyway, and that was the first time I got politics into my show. I started talking about political things, and some people loved it, some people didn't like it, but it was honest to me. If I'm not political, my career would be way bigger, even in Australia. I mean, right now, for example, I put up ads for my comedy festival show on Facebook and Twitter and everything. You
Yep.
do paid advertising. Every second day, I have to delete comments from my ads. And the comments are either a
Oh, wow.
white racist person saying, go back where you came from, or we don't like you here, or something like that. Or a Pakistani saying something along the lines of, why are you always talking bad about Pakistan? And, you don't respect Pakistan. And I've had this thing where in Pakistan, when I used to say things are bad in my comedy, many people would like it, but some people would say, if you don't like it, leave. So I left. And then I came to Australia, and when I say things that, I point out things that are bad over here in my comedy, because that's what I do in my comedy. I'm political. I talk about things that are bad. Then there's Australians who are like, if you don't like it, leave. And I was like, hang on, maybe like having a criticism doesn't mean I have to leave the whole country. Maybe you need to grow up and deal with it maturely. And then when Desis come at me and say, "Oh, why are you talking bad about Pakistan?" My whole response always like, "If it was so great, why are you here?" We didn't
Exactly.
leave we didn't leave Pakistan because it was so much fun that we just couldn't handle the party. We left because my life was at risk all the time. I was threatened all the time. I found bullets in my mailbox. My wife was threatened. Well, they threatened to kidnap my daughter. All of these things. I didn't want to grow up raise her in a place where her life was unsafe. I came here. I still love Pakistan, just as I love Australia. And I think Pakistan can be improved and Australia can be improved. So I talk about these things because they matter to me. And I find the funny in them because I'm a political comedian. But the idea that you shouldn't joke about things or you should only say nice things about things, I find that dishonest. I don't have patience for dishonesty at all. But and conservative elements in Pakistan hated me as much as conservative elements in Australia hate me. The difference is conservative elements in Australia will try to get me fired. Conservative elements in Pakistan used to literally want to fire at me. So I think that's the big difference. But yeah, you're always going to have critics, I guess. I don't know what else to
Always.
say.
If you're a well-known personality, you'll always have criticism.
Yeah, even if you're not well known, anyone in their family has half the family members who hate them, half family members who love them.
But
Desi is
that is what
particularly
we've grown up, in the
notorious at that.
family. Our, bu- I mean, our business is everybody's business. We have to put our nose in everybody's business. Otherwise, what is a
Exactly.
Desi family? Yes. So
Exactly.
now tell us about your comedy show. What we can
Ah.
expect. Yes, and where are you?
Mm,
Where are you going to
hmm.
perform? What dates?
Yeah, yeah.
Everything.
So I'm performing for the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, which happens every year here in Melbourne. I do a show every year at the festival. This year, I'm at the Chinese Museum, which is a beautiful venue here. I'm at the venue right now. It doesn't look like a museum. It actually just looks like on the inside, it just looks like a comedy room. But it is a beautiful Chinese museum that the comedy festival uses. My show is on from the 31st, from the 31st of March. It started and it continues every day till the 24th of April. So I'm doing a show every single day here at 6:20 p.m. except on Sundays, like today, it's 5:20 p.m.
Yep.
And then I'm going to Sydney for 2 days, and I'm going to Perth after that as well. All the dates are on the SamiShah.com. That's SAMISHH.com. The show is called Unappreciated, and the show is about the things that we don't appreciate in life. We went through COVID. We've lost so much. People lost income. People have lost their jobs. A lot of people hate the places that they live in now, or the situation that they are in life. And it's me saying, oh, things are pretty terrible, but also there's some nice things. Let's just pause for 1 second and appreciate some of the nice things that we have, that we're given, that we get. Because it's my 10th year in Australia. I've been here 10 years now, and I'm rethinking my approach to the world and to life, and kind of going, it's okay to be appreciative of what I've got as opposed to just complaining all the time, whinging, as Aussies call it.
Yes, whinging is big here. Okay.
Yes.
So, because I'm really looking forward to your show, and I know I
Thank you
have
very much.
shared it with a lot of my colleagues, and I'm sure they're all listening, and my friends. Um, okay, Noreen wants to know if your parents are loving Melbourne.
They're not here yet. My parents arrive on Thursday, so I haven't seen them in 4 years. I haven't seen my mother, father, 4 years. They haven't seen their granddaughter in 4 years, so we're very excited. We need to find places to have iftari because I'm not religious, but they are. So
Yep,
they're obviously observing Ramadan, and so I need to find a good iftar location for them. I mean, we'll do iftari at home, but it'd be nice to kind of go out to a nice restaurant or something. So I have to figure that stuff out. But yeah, I can't wait to see them. I cannot wait to
I can imagine.
see
I
them. I
can
haven't seen my
imagine.
parents in 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
would like to ask you, youngsters who are watching, um, and who have similar dreams to yours, what would you tell
Mm,
them? Because we really don't see too many South Asian comedians. And Noreen says she'll send you tons of recommendations for iftar, because we
thank
are
you.
going to have iftar and then watch your show. And Noreen knows everything and everybody in uh,
Brilliant.
in
Thank you.
Melbourne. And I am hoping Bashir is watching, because
Hmm.
Bashir has just got an award, and I'm sure Bashir will tell you where you get Afghan iftar. Bashir, if you're
Oh yeah,
watching,
that'd be
please put
great.
it in the chat, and
Absolutely.
Sami can see it. Yes.
For young people, I mean, it's kind of weird. Desis have a very old school approach to the arts. Like if someone wants to become a comedian or an actor or something. I'm doing a play, right? I'm doing not a play, like a radio production right now. I wrote a script for Amazon, and it's being turned into a production, and it's set in WA in Perth. And the lead characters are Desis, and the biggest problem we've had is in casting because there's no Desi actors in Perth and stuff who do it, and particularly young ones. There's very few in even in Melbourne and stuff. I get every now and then I'll get a few Desis who'll come to my show, and they'll always do the thing of like, I really want to get into comedy, but my parents won't let me. And I'm like, oh, my parents still don't like it. They still hate that I'm doing this. But as you know, at some point we just have to accept that you're happier being who you want to be. There's a big part of our culture which is that log kya kahenge.
Oh,
To
yes,
hell,
yes.
to hell with Log. Log have done nothing but ruin people's lives. Log hate me. I don't get invited to any Desi things. Most Desis don't come to my
I don't
shows.
get invited to any iftars. Let me tell you,
Yeah,
whoever's watching, I would like an iftar invite, and I promise you, I will
forget.
bring Sami with me.
Yeah, exactly. But like, not even that. Like, Pakistani community has events all the time. I'm literally the most prominent Pakistani in this country. I'm never invited, and the reason being because I'm an atheist. Because I'm prominent about my atheism. So they're like, oh, log kya kahenge. It's this weird thing. And I'm probably a negative influence on their children because I do comedy and things like that. And they want the kid to become a doctor. So it's this very disappointing old school thinking, which kind of prevents our young people from finding happiness, identity, owning who they are. There's some amazing people out there right now. Democracy in Color is a really good organization that has a lot of young Desis working in it who are really prominent. The LGBTQI movement in Melbourne and Victoria and everything has some amazing Desis, really young, passionate people. In comedy, there's a few others like myself. I'm an immigrant, but some of them who were born here. And all of them have the same story that their communities are always fighting with them, or the communities are upset with them, or their aunties and uncles are always looking down with them. And it's like, at some point you just have to tell, elder Desis like myself, I'm an uncle as well, to just shut up. Like, no one cares what we have to say. Young people, do what you want to do, be cool, make awesome things. Desis will always judge anything. We love judging things. Our favorite thing on earth is judging others and their life choices while refusing to look inside. um Create your own stuff. Eventually, when you become successful and famous, then the DCs will come knocking and going, hey, why don't you come to a cultural event, when
Yes,
they weren't there for you at
absolutely.
the start? So it's a Desi thing, unfortunately.
So, I know you are rushed for time. Bashir
Mhm.
wants you to come to Dandenong for iftar.
Absolutely. I'm in Dandenong all the time. I go to Dandenong. I live in Northcote. I drive all the way to Dandenong just to get charcoal chicken at least once every 2 weeks. So, yeah, no, absolutely. Anytime you want me in Dandenong, I am there.
Okay. Um, Samin, who runs Radio Bowl and is going to share this chat. Well, there you have a Pakistani, and she will
That's
have
great.
you. Noreen, 16-year-old, is coming to your show, and I know we are rushed. So, anything else you would like to say to anyone who's watching about your show,
Um,
about yourself, about Log Kya Kahenge, which is our
I mean, yeah, which is our national anthem.
yeah, which is
No,
our
I think
national anthem.
honestly, the only thing is, it's you know, especially to a lot of there's a lot of Desis out there. We get forced into IT jobs, into all of these things. Um, do what makes you happy. Honestly, one of the benefits of being in a place like Australia is you get access to the chance to just experiment. I met this elderly Desi gentleman recently in WA, and he's joined a theater group in his 50s because he's like, I always wanted to do theater. My whole life, my family was like, no, you can't do theater and think, "Wo log kya kahenge?" And he's doing it now. I've never seen anyone smile more and be happier with his life. So, like, just embrace who you are, embrace who you want to be. The community, needs to be more open-minded, and I hope they are getting to that place. I haven't seen evidence of it yet, but I'm sure eventually it'll happen. The young people will force them up into that open-minded space. But in the meantime, just support other the desis in the arts. There's a few of us, and we're all kind of trying to do our own thing and trying to represent our communities as best we can. So if you can support that, that'd be awesome.
Thank you so much for this afternoon.
Thank
I'm
you.
so happy I had it at 4 o'clock. All the best for tonight, and I will see you on the 21st. Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Bye.
Thank you, Sadia.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.